So I figured I might as well watch the second episode. Hey, it's Romania Black. Yeah. After watching episode 1 of Scum Villain's self-saving system, I was like, ooh, before the comments even start rolling in, before people potentially spoil me or whatever, although I feel like our moderators are going to have a tight lock on spoilers, which is great. I was like, I need to just go ahead and watch the second episode. Just dive in, because last episode, I feel like I was just gooped, gagged, gandered, gathered. I was just like, what is happening? So yeah, this story, the first MXTX work, I've already watched Modao Zushi, which was the second MXTX work, and Heaven Official's Blessing, which is the third MXTX work. This is the predecessor of all those, and what a different vibe and tone it already is, which I'm so excited about. But yes, this feels more like a comedy than the last two, which is interesting, as this is where MXTX got their start at. And also, the Donmai BL element of it is not present at all from the beginning here. Like, at least if you're not familiar, Modao Zushi and Heaven Official's Blessing, I felt from episode 1 there was, like, you know, the moment of Lam Wanji and Modao Zushi in the first episode showing up, and then you have in Heaven Official's Blessing the whole thing with the bridal caravan and the hands touching in the first episode. Both those series, from the very first episode, you're like, oh, okay, we have BL elements. It's a Donmai. Great. This one, I'm assuming that Lu Bing is like, our Luo Bing is that these ladies he's surrounding himself with, it makes him look 100% heterosexual to me. And as far as we know, SQQ, Shen, as we know, he doesn't seem to have any Donmai BL elements with his character yet. So I'm going to be very curious. There is the aspect of, if he's trying to change fate, there's the hidden storyline. And I'm like, is the hidden storyline that he's going to have a relationship with him, like a secret love, like enemies to lovers sort of thing, which I'm all for. So we'll see if that plays out. Obviously, please, no spoilers. Don't be like, yep, that's gonna happen. Don't do that. Because I want to find out on my own, damn it. And also, as I was telling people in the Discord, I'm gonna be reading the novel after this. So anything that I miss watching the Donghua the first time over, I will be going back to the novel and reading these chapters, so I will likely have a more detailed account. Whiteboard Kun is going to come out and be of help. So just let me figure this out on my own, and we'll be great, right? Because I feel like there's going to be a lot to unpack. The one thing I do want to comment, and this is slight Heaven Official's Blessing spoilers, so there's a note up here for Heaven Official's Blessing spoilers. If you've not read the entirety of Heaven Official's Blessing, I would probably skip this section until this little label is gone. But I rewatched episode 1, and the character Nightmare, that is supposedly the teacher that teaches Lo Bing his magic that ends up making him the one that takes over the world. We don't see him in the current timeline. We don't see him in the present. He's conveniently not there. But and I don't quite remember from rewatching episode 1 if Shin SQQ's character ends up killing them or what. But as the mentor, I was getting major Junwoo vibes. I was like rewatching the episode being like, is this kind of like a Junwoo where, because there's a line in there where he says that he admired Lo Bing's like a potential as a martial arts master. I'm like, is this kind of like Junwoo where he's trying to like seduce Liu Bing and it doesn't work? Is he going to be like a love interest conflict for our SQQ? I don't know. So I'm like, we'll just have to see. That's the mystery of the show. I'm going to be making these crackpot theories that are probably wrong, maybe right, and you all can just sit on your hands, put your hands in your mouth and be like, Romania, what are you doing? So yes, but this is my first isekai ever. Here's the thing. All I know about isekais is it's the idea of like reincarnation and you die over and over again. And you go back to checkpoints and things. That's how I understand an isekai. Don't correct me. Let me figure this out. Y'all know how this goes. But I am going to be curious if he gets to like a point where he keeps dying and coming back to the same position because he's in the story. This series is already really nerve-wracking because I'm sitting here like, the story, we already know how the story ends. He's in the pickle jar, Liu Bing hates him and gets his revenge on him and then moves on with this harem of wenches. And I'm like, I don't want that to happen. I want them to end up together, but it's already so tense because you know what the end product could be. And now you're rooting for our villain to change the story. And what's interesting is he's playing a character that is an active participant and influence on Luo being turning from the protagonist good guy to the protagonist bad guy, or depending how you look at it. He's technically a victim, so is he a bad guy? But to our villain, yes, absolutely. So it's playing with these tropes of protagonist and antagonist, hero and villain, and putting some gray area in there, and also adding the idea of like choices and consequences. But damn it, you know, if SQQ could have his way, he would just fix the story and make it work out in his favor. But the system is like, no, you can't cheat. You can't be out of character. And I'm like, how can he be in character and still make this work? Because his in-character villain seems to be an asshole. So how do you take an asshole and make him likable and satisfying to the protagonist, to Luo? So I have a feeling that there was a lot of people just talking about chapter 1 on Discord, and it was like black box, black box, black box, black box. And I was like, oh God. I was like, if you're getting this much out of the first chapter of this story, it's going to be interesting. So yeah, the only thing I will say is, to go along with Heaven Official's blessing, is I was told that our main character, the villain, has the same voice actor as the Earthmaster in Heaven Official's blessing. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Nice. They don't sound alike. They really don't sound alike. So I'm like, that's so fascinating to me, because I watched season 2 of the Donghua of Heaven Official's blessing. Interesting. But yeah, I'm so excited. I feel like I want to soak this series in with the Donghua. I feel like the Donghua is going to basically be me soaking it all in, letting it sit there, and then when I get to the novel, it's going to be time to process. Obviously, I'm going to be processing and using Whiteboard Coon in this case, but I feel like that the novel is really where it's going to get broken down, and y'all are going to be like, okay, let's break this sucker down, because it's comedy, it's satire, you can definitely already see influences from Odazushi and Heaven Official's blessing in the works. You can see MXTX's mind churning of what we can do, and I'm honestly super excited. And plus, I had people in the Discord were like, was the animation okay? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. I like the animation. I think it's great. You all underestimate the shitty animation I grew up with from the 90s. You guys, I don't know if you fully realize how bad the CGI in the 90s and early 2000s were. I don't think you know. And if you do know, then this is great. This is fine. I'm not opposed to this at all. I was like, I watched shit like Jimmy Neutron and Reboot, and there was some questionable CGI back then. I played PlayStation 1. The questionable CGI is the name of the game, so this is fine. This is great. This is better than the cutscenes from like Final Fantasy X. So, ooh, the Final Fantasy crowd coming out being like, what, bitch? So yeah, I'm super excited to see what ends up happening. I'm super excited by this. I hope you all are too, but we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right in. I want to make sure my subtitles are on. Make sure we got those. Yes, great. And then we're going to start episode 2 of, we'll see if Luo gets hit or not, of Scum Villain Self-Saving System. We're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And, good buddy, let's go. Oh my God. I'll tell you what, skipping the OP and ED makes these episodes do feel very short. And I know people are saying, they're like, oh, the Donghua episodes are going to be really short. And I was like, well, just wait till we get to the novel reactions, then we'll make up for it. We'll make up for it when we get to the novel reactions and go back through all this, because I'm sure I will have lots of things to comment on. And my dog is like, I've been patient. I let you watch the episode. Now I want you to throw my toy, bitch. So that's where we're at. But I was wondering how this is going to work, because I was like, okay, it's out of character for Shen to do certain things. How does Shen get around being out of character? The good news is, as MXTX is kind of a master of this, MXTX introduces this concept, and you're like, how narratively are you going to be able to work around that? And then they explain how you can work around it, and it's like, oh, okay. So I love the idea. The Scum Villain's self-saving system, which is seeming like that's the program, the program that's helping Shen, the self-saving system. I feel like what the program, I feel, is simultaneously, it's trying to save him. It's trying to save Shen. and be like, look, you want the hidden storyline that saves your character and lets him get with Luo at the end? Oh, don't worry. That's the hidden storyline. We'll help you get there. But the system also is recognizing that our villain, our protagonist's enemy, Shen, is kind of a dumbass. I like that he's such a bro. He's kind of a dumbass, and he's like, oh, look at me, look how smart I am. He seems oblivious to the even remote possibility that he could end up with Luo. This episode showed that, oh no, Luo had his gay awakening right there in that damn carriage, had that gay awakening, and now it's on. It's like, nope, that's the thing. And so it's gonna be, we're going to talk about a lot of theories in this episode. I have so many theories. And like you all know from Heaven Official's Blessing and Modao Sushi, I'm probably going to either be maybe on track, oh, you got it, or 1,000 times wrong. And so I don't want you to confirm or deconfirm my theories. Just let me theorize. Let me have my moment. And then as we go through the novel and the show, we'll figure out if I'm right or not. We'll see how it goes. And my moderator is going to be checking comments to make sure y'all don't spoil for me the answers to my theories and questions, so just be aware of that. But yeah, I have theories about what I think this story could do and where I think it's going to go. But I'm like, oh my God. But I really am starting to like Shen's character. Shen's character was he was just such an arrogant bro last episode where he was like, oh, what a stupid novel. Why did I waste all my time reading this novel? I'm better than that. And then he ends up getting isekai'd into this world and has to, and figure out how to navigate it. And it's almost like he's doing a self-critical analysis of his character as he goes, because he's like, okay, well, how would my character answer this question? How would they talk about this situation? How can I work behind the scenes? That's really what it's becoming. It's figuring out how to in character respond to a situation to make it work in your favor. Surprisingly, the answer is mostly don't say anything. And then it's also like, how do I work behind the scenes to kind of shift events from happening, to shift the confrontation to help influence Luo's character from going down a darker path? And it's like, oh, okay. There's just so much to this already. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited by this, because I really am liking Shen's character so much more in this episode, because he's starting to like figure out, how can I work the system? How can I make it work for me? And I think the system wants to help him, but the system's also like, bitch, you got to play the game. I think the system, it's like simultaneously wanting him and Luo to end up together, and it's trying to like shuffle Shen that direction, because Shen's pretty oblivious to the hidden storyline. But I also think that the story at the same time is like, hey, you really docked this story for being something simplistic and stupid. Now you're going to see how complex it actually is. And I'm going to make you realize that. So I have also theories about other characters, but we're going to dive into this and see what we get. Let me turn the sound off. I liked the idea that using the leaf from behind the scenes, being able to, that Shen was like, okay, I can use the leaf from behind the scenes and scare away the bully juniors and seniors from attacking Luo. Because in all honesty, I like that Shen realizes that Ming Fan is actually has potential as a character. And Luo was like, damn, you could actually be a nice character if you didn't piss off Luo when he kills you. So maybe I'll try to influence that not happening. So I like the idea. It's not just influencing. Shen is not only doing actions that influence the way his character ends up in the story, but potentially is influencing the ways that Ming Fan ends up in the story. His actions could end up saving Ming Fan's life, which is really, really interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see whether it works out that Ming Fan lives and what his character ends up doing. Ming Fan clearly likes the girl disciple. We'll talk about her. And so he's very jealous of Luo getting to go with her everywhere. So here's the thing. Do I think that Shen is going to be able to do enough to save Ming Fan's character? I don't think so. I think Ming Fan's character is still going to die, but I don't think it's going to necessarily be because he just bullied Luo's character. I think it's also going to become because he got so jealous of Luo with the female disciple, that his jealousy ends up getting him killed. Not the bullying necessarily, but I think his jealousy of Luo is going to end up getting him killed. And that's a character trait that Shen can't stop. Whatever Shen does isn't going to stop that. So what can you do, right? What can you do? But I like the idea of these leaves. And I it's also, it's playing off so much where it's like, off of the idea of the game and rigging the game and playing the system, because the system's like, oh, I docked you 15 points for the leaf throwing, and he's like, well, I'll just put these leaves together and fire them all at once, and if I fire them all at once, it'll only count once. And then the system's like, no, bitch, you can't manipulate us like that, it's 15 points per leaf. And he's like, son of a bitch. But I am very interested to see how this B point system plays out. I know he needs a certain amount of them to do things, so I'm curious like where that's going to go with the B points and how it's going to influence what happens about his character. He wants to get enough points to get out of, to be able to erase the out of character mode. And here's my thing. Theory number one, might as well write theories up here, because then you all can take a screenshot of it later and be like, see, here's what you were right and wrong about, right? Yeah, sure. I know I have an official's blessing theory Google Doc in the Discord, and I'm saving it for the live stream to go through. So when we get there, we'll get there. But so theory number one, I guess I'll put I guess I should just put theories on here and then just go through them, because I have a bunch that kind of came out of this episode. So theories. Number one is that the out of character mode is going to happen at the very end. I feel like the out of character mode is going to be that third act climax plot twist where Luo is genuinely in danger by, we'll talk about it in a second, by the character that is the true villain of the series. And I feel like Luo is going to be in danger, and Shen is going to have to like unlock character mode to save him. And I feel like there's going to be some kind of sacrificial element, like maybe Shen sacrifices himself and does it maybe in character, and then the system's like, all right, you did it, you sacrificed yourself while being in character, we're gonna unlock character mode, out of character mode now, so now you can be yourself. And by that point, I feel that he and Luo will have known each other long enough and will have developed this relationship where then it'll all come out, and then he'll be like, I love you, and Luo's like, duh, same, and then Don My BL happens from there. Now, whether that ends up happening or not, I don't know. We'll have to see, right? And the curious thing about Shen being played by, our main character, we don't know his name. The curious thing is we don't know enough about the main character to know what his actual character is like. We don't really know we've only seen the back of his head from the computer screen in the real world. We don't know anything about him. We get a gander of what Shin's character is like and how he's trying to imitate him. But I think it's going to be interesting to see the main character and Shin and kind of this merger that happens between them. Now, the question is, at the very end of the series, I've been thinking it since the episode started last week, what's going to happen at the end? Is he going to is this going to be like Avatar, where he chooses to stay in that world and he chooses just to stay in this world and not go back to the real world? Will he go back to the real world and meet Luo in real life and be like, aha? I'm so curious how that's going to end. I could see it maybe being like, I don't know how it's going to end. I don't know. Part of me is like, oh, he'll stay in that world forever. But I'm like, then what about the real world? What? I'm going to be excited to see how that ends. The aspect of the real world that's kind of, been pushed to the sidelines for now is going to be very interesting to see how that plays out as we go. But I don't know. But I like it. So he's like, yes, acceptable. This will work. And then, of course, he finds out with the other leaves that it's like he manages to run them off, but he's like, damn it. He's like, don't report to me. He's like, I did it for your own good, Mingfan. If you bully him now, he'll pay you back 100 times more. Yeah. So he manages to get the jade pendant. He finds it in the tree. And here's the thing. He gets it. He's like, I can't let this be game over. He's like, I need to keep a hold of these little items because they might come in handy later. And that's when he finds out the jade pendant is like something rather important. And obviously it's important to Luo, but it's going to influence him as the game goes on. So yeah, I want to get in this point where he sees Luo walking away. He's like, why was I so kind to him? I do like that. I like Shen kind of questioning right now, like, why was I kind to him? Because he kind of like scoffs him before this series starts, being like, oh, the protagonist, what a douche, la la la. He's like, why was I nice to him? Why don't, which, the obvious answer is he doesn't want to end up in the pickle jar at the end. He's trying to influence the story so he doesn't end up dying. But then he's like, why was I nice? Like, could I have just avoided it and maybe let a little bit of it happen? I don't know. But then he sees the jade pendant. I love the animation. I like the animation of the expressions. I think it works really good, especially the carriage scene. I'm like, yes. Here's kind of the cool thing. With the jade pendant, he's like, he could have just left it. He's like, if he just left the jade pendant and looked up and went, he's not going to have it. It's fine. I don't need it. We'll just leave it hanging here. Maybe he'll come back and find it later. I don't know. But he didn't. He picked it up because he knew it was something that was important to Luo. And that's when he finds out it's a key item that's going to help him later. He's like, you're changing the storyline. You're changing the storyline by having that pendant. So my next theory is that he is going to give that pendant. He is going to give that pendant. Either he's going to give it to Luo, or Luo is going to discover he has it. So the storyline being changed, the hidden storyline, the jade pendant is part of it. And I'm like, okay. And they're like they gave him points for for changing the storyline. Like the self-saving system is rewarding him for finding items that are going to change the storyline. So it's like, okay, that the self-saving system wants you to change the storyline. It's trying to help you. It's just you have to figure out. It's not going to give you all the answers. It's going to tempt you, as we'll talk about later. It's going to tempt you. It's going to offer you things that may not end up helping you. But in the overall long run, I think the self-saving system is trying to help you not end up in the pickle jar. So now the question is going to be, is him giving the pendant to him, is it going to be at a time where there will be a positive reaction from Luo? Or is the secret villain that I think is the secret villain, are they going to try to use it against Shen and be like, oh, he kept that jade pendant? But then Shen could be like, yeah, I was going to give it back to you. It just wasn't the right time. I don't know. Is this yours? I'm going to be curious to see how the jade pendant plays out, but it seems like a very relevant item. And so they call it a key item. So, of course. And Olivia's like, hooray for being a kind person. Yay. I really do like Shen's character. Like I said, I like him a lot. He's not as mischievous as Wei Wuxian at all. He's definitely more oblivious. He's not as mischievous. He's a little bit more like an airhead. But he's also not as humble and sincere and kind as Shilian. He's just kind of like, not a himbo, but he's just kind of an airhead dorky bro. But I like it. It works. He's learning. He's growing. He's kind of an underdog, and I root for him because he's very relatable. It's great. But yeah, I also like how we see Luo and just how broody he is. There's so much. You can see why he's the protagonist, right? The funny thing is, Luo gives off main character protagonist vibes so hard. Like him sitting there, like looking at the jade, wishing that he, like the one thing from his mother that he lost, like he's very emotional. It's very sincere. I like the way that the female disciple, looks over to him. Like you can tell like why she ended up becoming part of his harem. Like you can see all of that, right? And I love the way that they develop his character. And the shot back and forth of him being like, I lost that jade pendant. That was the one thing my mother had that was hers that I still had. And you see him like look down at the leaf, and then you look, and then it flips back to Shen having the pendant. Like the way that was interspliced and worked. Oh, it was so good. It was like our very first like BL moment of just like these two characters can connect. And I am 1,000 times here for it. I just love how emotional and broody Luo is. It's great. Meanwhile, Shen's like, I did a good thing. I'm not a bad person. Luo's having an existential crisis. And Shen's like, I'm beating the system. Love it. Love it. I just love the comedy woven in and all that. So then, okay. This part here, there's not really a need for a Modao Zushi Heaven Official's Blessing corner because I think we got it out at the intro. I do want to say, and this isn't a spoiler to anything Modao Zushi plot related, but the ambiance of the woman running through town getting attacked by the demon spirit, that felt so Modao Zushi. Modao Zushi has that vibe, that same kind of spirituality, supernatural element. I was like, ooh, it is fun to see some of these like little elements come out as you watch and be like, oh, that feels very Modazushi, or that feels very Heaven Official's Blessing. And to know that later MXTX is going to create stories that kind of embellish on those elements and expand on them. That's freaking cool. And I really like that. So I was like, neat. I'm all about this. So yeah, the idea that we have this skinner, this bride skinning thing, which also, no spoilers, kind of ties into an element of Heaven Official's Blessing at the very beginning of the story. So it's not really spoilery, but I really like it. So yeah. So then we have a shot. I did see this in the ED before we stopped, of him just sitting there with the jade pendant, being like, it must be a high level item. It's like, yes, this is something it could save my life in the future. Oh, I think it will. I think it's going to save your life in the future. Don't you worry, son. I think that pendant is going to be really, really, really important. And I like the way they animate Shin's face. Like Shin's face and Luo's face, they look great. Okay, so here's my next theory. As he's sitting there looking at the pendant, looking over the lake, we have our iron tone, steel tone clad man just walking like Jesus on that water, the senior of the Sky tribe, looking so innocent and sweet. I have theories. Here's my theory about this bitch. Okay, all right, because we know that's not his brother, that's his senior. They're like sworn brothers. About lost this. So theory number 3, I think that the sworn brother, that the Sky Tribe sworn brother, and hear me out, this is going to be Sky Tribe sworn brother that is the leader of the clan. Here's my thing. Hear me out. This is going to sound like a twisted theory, and you're going to be like, Romania, really? I think he's the nightmare guy. I think he is the guy that is teaching Luo the sacred martial arts. I think they're the same person. I think they're one and the same. I think that this is a disguise. I think that they're one and the same. I think that he is also Nightmare, and alongside that, I think that he is also the secret, real villain of the series. I'm putting them all together. I'm saying they're the real villain. I'm saying that they're the real villain. I say they're the same person, because I don't know. There's just something about, like, because here's the thing. In the story, Shin's character's kind of an asshole. He's kind of a dick to Luo and his seniors and his fellow disciples, with the exception of the girl that kind of has a thing for Luo. They all kind of follow suit around Shin. But this guy, he's barely there. He seems super kind-hearted and nice, but he never tries to correct Shin for anything he's doing with Luo. He never tries to like say like, oh, well, you know, you've been a little harsh to him. Should you be nicer? Here's my thing. Like he seems like he is in charge over Shin, but never tells Shin that maybe he should be nicer to Luo. And I think that's intentional. I think he's trying to get Shin to be mean to Luo, so that when Luo falls down the chasm and, you know, ends up in the demon realm or whatever, he meets this mofo as Nightmare, and Nightmare's like, oh, here, let me give you this sword and teach you all these martial arts so you can take over the world. I think that his character is jealous of Shin and is the antagonist trying to get in between their love story because he likes Luo, and so he's trying to make Shin out to be the bad guy so that Shin will be punished and he can sneak in and just swoop in and be with Luo. Maybe. Especially if Luo comes out that he's like into Shin or like into male characters, then this guy's gonna be like, oh yes, absolutely gonna wiggle my way in there. So I don't know. It just felt like in this scene he sends him on a mission to go into town to go investigate this murder, because Shin's afraid if I don't, you know, find a way to handle the situation with Luo, it's going to lead to A, B, and C plot. I need to find a way to manipulate the system. And Shin already knows the story, so he knows where this is going, and he's like, oh my god, we're going to go into this town with this murder. What's going to happen? How can I manipulate it? And it's funny because he knows the story, but he's manipulating as he goes. So the story is changing in ways that he can't predict. And so he's like, crap, I put Ming in charge. What do I do with Luo? What do I do with this? And so he tries to figure out how to keep the story going, but manipulate it in his favor as he goes. And that gets harder and harder because all these outside factors are starting to come into play that he doesn't know how to anticipate. And it's like, So yeah, so this mofo comes in. He's like, hey, I know you're trying to like change your own storyline, but I need you to go on the side quest. And he's like, I ain't got time for a side quest. And he tries to say no. And the story is like, no, you need to go do this. Which after the carriage ride, like I said, after the carriage ride, I feel like the self-saving system is trying to help him. And he's like, no, you need to go on this quest because it's a chance for the two of you to bond. And that needs to happen. But I don't know. The steel tones where it looks like a gray character and you're like, he like, I don't know. He has like a Modazushi Jishin vibe. But then at the same time, I'm like, and he was there at the very beginning. And I'm like, what better way to plant your main villain of the series right there from the beginning and then forget about him conveniently for a long time and then he show up again. I don't know. I just like, he just has this air about him where he looks like he has this kind and calm demeanor, but he's wearing freaking black. And I'm like, you're a secret villain, bitch. So I don't know. I could be wrong. He could be the nicest like dandelion under the sun. And y'all are like, Romania, how dare you? But I just think he's Nightmare. I think he's going to end up being Nightmare, and I think he's going to be the main villain of the series, trying to keep Shen from saving Luo, and from saving himself, too. I get that vibe, and I could be totally wrong, but we'll just have to wait and see. So yeah, I like that Shen is like, you mean I have an NPC quest? What? No, I don't want to do this. And they're like, it's your beginner quest. You have to go on it. You have to go to Shanju town and investigate the murder case. And he's like, I don't want to do this. But they don't give him the option. So he has to go. And I love when he shows up at the Chin mansion. We'll get to the Chin mansion in a minute. But I like when he shows up and the Chin guy's just going on and on about the exposition. And he's like, it's like when you're playing a game and you want the NPC to quit talking and you keep pressing X to try to get through the dialogue. And you're like, okay, I get it. Let's go. Let's do the mission. That's what it felt like. So I love that Shen has the fan. He's just like such a diva with the fan. But I like that Shen is in the carriage and he finds out from the he's like, in this world, even in this world of witchcraft, it says not everybody rides on broomsticks, which is a little nod to Modazushi, which was really fun. I liked the little nod to one of the mechanics of Modazushi. I was like, womp womp. They also mentioned Harry Potter, which was such a weird thing. They bleeped it out in the, I guess for monetization, they bleeped it out in there. But I was like, it's clearly talking about Harry Potter, which is kind of funny. There's that little comedic reference. It's great. So then we have is like, okay. And also it says, otherwise it'll be too flashy. And then it's like self-saving system. You know your stuff well. Did you work on Harry Potter too? And they're like, how many days is it going to take to get there? And the self-saving system, it says the original story didn't mention this as well. Like, so what's happening? And this is one of the ways to increase B points. Discover the hidden storyline. Please experience it. And he's like, fine, that's enough. I understand. I have to experience everything, including traveling in a horse carriage. And I'm like, no, but that's it. The self-saving system is trying to tell him, like, you have to experience the alternate storyline. You have to find the hidden storyline. Don't you get it? And the scene that this creates, I don't think our boy Shen is aware that what happens is he ends up inviting Luo into the carriage. They have this moment, and that moment is like the little tiny seed that starts the hidden storyline. The hidden storyline is Luo kind of falling in love with Shen, and thus the enemies to lovers sort of thing getting planted in the scene. Shen doesn't realize it. Shen doesn't realize that by being in this carriage and having this moment with Luo, it's setting the stage for the hidden storyline. He doesn't realize it, and it's just like, oh my God. Oblivious character of the couple in an MXTX work is such a archetype. And I'm like, oh, Shen, you don't have any clue, honey. And I don't think even Luo fully realizes it. It's just like the seed was planted, right? So then this girl's like, look at the seniors. They're bullying Luo. Why don't you scold him? It's so stereotypical and sad that Luo has like the pack. He has like the backpack with all the extra things. And he's just like trugging along. No horse, no nothing. And they're all just doing circles around him. I love this series, like, poking fun at the stereotype and making it so over the top that you're just like, oh my God, you just feel for our protagonist, right? You feel for him, right? Even though he seems like he turns out to be like this power hungry bastard by the end, when you're following along the story like this, you're like, oh no, yeah, I get it. I get why people would, feel sorry for you and want to follow you and root for you. But here's the thing. Shen is like, I want to invite him in the carriage to like make him a better person. He's like, if this goes on, your disciples are going to be bad people. He's like, And that's when he like asks him to come there. And poor Lo is just like, he thinks that like the worst is going to happen. Like the look on his face, he thinks the worst is going to happen when he gets invited into this carriage, that he's going to get scolded or punished. And the disciples all think that too. And I like the way that Shen's look. He's just like, get in. He's like, get in, bitch. Like she's such a diva. But he's just like, all right, fine, let's go. He's just so arrogant about it. It's like, ah. And Lo's like, what? Okay. And I like the system trying to say, you're being out of character by letting him in. And she's like, go on, get in the carriage. The master wants you to ride with him. And she almost seems, and it's like, there's a rule violation, 100% out of character for letting him ride the carriage. And I like that Shen's already figured out how to play the system. He's just sitting here with his fan being like, oh no, system, I figured this out. I love that he's like, no. He's like, actually, hold it. He's like, I'm not helping him. I'm doing it for Ning Ying Ying. So Ning is the girl that, okay, I didn't quite catch this until I rewatched episode 1. In the original story, because we're trying to make this a heterosexual story, he's supposed to have it in for the young girl disciple, because that's not any weirder. And he's supposed to have it in for the girl disciple. And the twist is that because he's the villain, he wants her, but she ends up going with Lu and becoming part of his harem, and that just makes his life even more miserable. So that's what it's supposed to be. He's supposed to have a love interest in Ning. And he uses that in this moment to be like, oh, no, it's not out of character. He's like, I'm supposed to have a thing for Ning. So Ying Ying is my most beloved disciple. So how can I not disappoint? How can I disappoint my beloved disciple? She even begged me. It can't be hurting her. So my action is totally in character. And the warning is invalid. The funny thing about this moment is that he basically acknowledges he does not have a thing for Ying Ying at all. He's like, oh no. He's like, no, letting Lo into my carriage. That's not me being nice and favoritism towards him. That's just to appease her because she begged me to do it. But he does not at all in any way, shape, or form say, oh, I actually like her. No, he doesn't. And Lo, as he's walking through the town later, thinking back on that moment, is kind of like, oh girl, you're just a friend. You may end up in my harem just for show, but it's just for show. I'm actually not into you that way. And I was like, oh my God. So whereas last episode, I was like, where's the BL element coming in? Oh no, it's here. It's here. We absolutely have it now. It's fine. So yeah, he ends up in the carriage, and then that's when he gives him the medicine, being like, I can't let myself look like somebody that abuses my disciples. So here, take the medicine. But him giving him the medicine, being like, apply it to your wounds. And Lo's like, what? And he's like, I don't want others to think I'm torturing my disciple. And in that moment, when he looks at him, there's this moment of him smiling. It's almost creepy. I will admit, the animation makes it almost creepy, but he's just like, oh my God, you actually helped me, Master. That's great. And he's like, thank you, Master. And then Shen lets himself smile in just a moment, and they smile at each other and have this moment of just like this tender moment. And then the system's like, okay, no, you're not supposed to smile. We're 15 points deducted. Or they took off 10 points. And he's like, bitch, I can't smile. I love how he's like, he glares at the machine like, what do you mean I can't smile at him? And that's kind of the thing. From here on in, a lot of the ways that Shen diffuses points being taken away is he just stops the confrontation from happening. He just finds ways to not explain the situation, to not show favoritism, but just to casually either ignore Lo's advances, whether he realizes they are advances or not, or just make the situation to where it favors Lo but doesn't call attention to it. So the problem is, because he can't be out of character, if there ever comes a moment where he wants to express his love of Lo, it can't happen. So it's like Lo isn't going to know for sure if it's mutual or not until that damn OOC counters off. And it's like, basically. That's what we're getting at. He's like, how dare you deduct points for a smile? So yeah, we get to the Chin mansion. I'm so glad they cut away from him making out with that concubine, because I was like, is this really, it's just like every moment there could be like a moment of heterosexual romance. The series is like, no, let's not do that. Let's not do that. But I do feel, look, I know Ming Fan is a bitch and he's a bully. Right? And he is a bully. I do feel a little bit for him for liking Ying Ying and her being like, nah, not gonna happen. So we have this thing with the concubine and him like about the Skinner and everything. I'm real curious to know like if this guy is responsible for the Skinner, what that story is, if it's like a former concubine that's jealous of him with his other concubines. Like I am curious to know what the whole situation is causing this Skinner demon to appear, right? And so then Ming Fan ends up like, I like that Shen is like, I'm gonna send you on the job, and kid, you go out and do this investigation because I already know how this song and dance goes. That's when Ying Ying is like, I want to walk around the town. And Shen is like, I can't walk you around town because what was the reason why that happens? She's like, do you want to join us? And he says, sure. And that's when the self-saving system's like, no, Shen Qingqiu is a quiet person. He will not visit places that are bustling. And I'm like, oh my God. So that does set up something. I want to put down here. This idea that because Shen apparently, according to their character, because at the moment it's like she was like, oh, let's go walk around town, Lo and you and me. And he's like, yes, that'll get me, I can get to know Lo's character more, make sure he doesn't go off the path, make sure everything works out, sure. And then the system's like, no, he doesn't like crowded places. So I feel at some point Shen and Lo are going to have to be alone for that to be an in-character moment. Because him to be like, oh, I actually don't like crowds. Let's go alone and talk about this. And I'm like, aha. So that's setting that up, that there's going to be like some intimate moments perhaps because Shen's not somebody that likes the bustling crowd. And he's like, fine. And that's when he's like, if you want to walk around town, ask someone to go with you. And of course, she asks Lo and not Ming Fan. But Ming Fan gets sent to go investigate this like weird ass well with this demon, demonic presence that comes out of it. So then, I like that she's a little bit taller than Lo because, like younger teenage boys, they haven't hit puberty fully, so they haven't fully grown up because he obviously ends up taller than her in the end. I like that she's like, Shen never invited me to a carriage. And I'm like, should be sign number one that he's never going to. And she's like, what did you notice in it? How was the carriage ride? How was the inside of the carriage? And he's like, how was the inside of that carriage? What did that inside of that carriage look like? And then I like that when we revisit that scene from Lo's point of view, it like zooms in on Shen's face. Like that, like the expression, the face is what he was thinking about and looking at. And I'm like, oh no, this is a sexual awakening if ever there has been one. This was the moment. Because, yeah, he's, like, contemplating and, like, thinking off into space about it. And Ying Ying's like, wait, there's a demon that ends up kidnapping her. Surprisingly enough. I like that he tries to protect her and it just gets past him and kidnaps her. I'm glad she seems okay for now. But I'm also glad that, Shen didn't, or Luo didn't accidentally, like, stab her or something with that sword. Because it was a little comical seeing him, like, swing at smoke. But he was trying, he has a special sword. It probably would have done some damage. Meanwhile, she gets taken away and all Luo knows to do is go back to Ming Fan and them and like tell them what happened. I like that Shen is so proud of himself that his voice is getting more like the character. He's like, I'm such an actor. I feel like it's a gamer that suddenly found himself in a theater class and he's like doing decently well and he's like, I'm a theater major. And it's like, are you? So, he's like, I'm sure it's a demon. They're like, well, you're strong enough. You'll probably knock him out. And then it's like, good job. You're sounding more in character. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see the merger of the main character and the character itself merging into this new entity. It's very different and it's very interesting. Like this like melding of a character and this alternate persona Interesting. But poor Lo getting nearly beat by Ming Fan, and he's like, okay, enough talk. Where are we going to go? Like, get everybody else, and we're going to investigate. And I like that Lo's like, I just want to bring Ying Ying back safely. And Shen's like, how can I handle this in character? If I say anything to him, it'll be out of character. So instead, he's like, follow me, we'll go get her. And that's in character enough. You don't, as long as he doesn't do anything that would warrant seeming out of character, it's fine. And he's like, I can't, because he almost like goes to help him up in that moment. He almost goes to help him up, and then the system is like, hey, you can't do that. Because he's like, I respect you. And he's like, you're brave. You're brave to take a girl like her into your harem. Yeah, because it's like, in this moment, he's like, Lo's character knows, or maybe Lo's character doesn't know, that Shen's character is supposed to like Ying Ying. So Shen is like, man, you're really brave taking the girl that your master likes into your harem after all this, especially when you lost her and had to get my help to save her. That's kind of the thing. He's like, man, he's like, you had to come get me to help save her, but you end up taking her into your harem. It's a bold move, Cotton. And it's like, But here's the thing. At this point, we don't know how the story would have been different, right? We don't know how the story would have been different because the storyline has already been changed. The storyline has already been altered. So at this point, it's like a butterfly effect. We don't know if she's going to end up in his harem or not. We don't even know if he's going to end up with a harem. We don't know at this point because he's had a sexual awakening. That one moment in the carriage could have changed the whole outcome of the rest of the story. And Shen is just too oblivious to realize it. And he goes to touch him and comfort him. And that's when the system is like, you can't do that. You can't do that. So he's like, my efforts will be wasted. So instead he tells him like, let's go. And it's not like, it's a very indifferent, he's just like, keep up with me. Let's go rescue her. And I like that his character has all this ability and Lo does not. And so Lo has to like try to catch up with him. But at the very end, he does tell Lo, he's like, when we get back, I'm going to train you. So I'm like, is that going to happen? I don't know. Okay, the other aspect I want to talk about is this easy mode where he was like, okay, they're covering their demonic aura. Is it Rouge? And the system is like, can you pay 100 B points to activate the easy mode? This was a mistake, I feel. And I feel like his character is, I feel like Shen's going to figure out that was a waste and I shouldn't have done that, but I learned the hard way because yeah, sure, it activates easy mode and you get the trail leading you back to where it started. But he was like, as he gets the trail, he's like, well, damn it, I could have smelled this from a mile away. Why did I waste the easy mode? And then it's like, oh, it led me right back to the mansion where we were from. Oh, what the heck? And that's where him and Lo get knocked out. But I feel like hopefully that was a lot of points to waste for something that I feel like his character figured out right after that and was like, son of a bitch, I just wasted all those points. Dumb. Yeah. Also, when I heard the dog barking when Lo crashed next to Shen, I thought of Modazushi, so that was fun. And he's like, oh, he's quick, let's go. But then they end up back at the mansion. I like the little fade to black and coming out, and he's like, ugh. He's like, we're back where we started. And then this demon like sweeps over them to knock them out. And of course, right before Shen passes out, Lo reaches for him. Uh-huh. And he's the last thing he sees before he passes out. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm seeing the foundation being built here. Yes, please. That damn carriage ride has set things in motion, y'all. Oh my God. But I don't think Nightmare or the Sworn Brother or anything is gonna like let this go down easily. So, ooh, I'm intrigued, y'all. I'm so intrigued. Yes. I'm like, what's gonna happen now? Is Ming Fan gonna find them? Are they gonna beat up Lo thinking that he hurt Shen? What are we gonna do? So I probably am not gonna be able to watch the next episode until I get comments from episode 1. So please no spoilers, hints, or clues. I will have a mod checking comments. Y'all just please don't spoil me. I'm gonna figure it out if I haven't figured it out, and you guys can watch me Sherlock my way out of this as we go, but I'm so in love with this series so far. It's so much fun, and it's so fun to see Shen's character trying to figure his shit out, and it's like, so I'm excited. As long as you don't spoil or give hints or clues or confirmation or deconfirmations of things to come, or of theories I've put out there, feel free to leave your comment down below. But I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what ends up happening. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yes, I'll be back very soon with more Scum Villains self-saving system. Bye.